Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is um, a series of Facebook Live events we're doing in the wake of the floods in Waverly, Tennessee. And tonight's installment is part two of our discussion about insurance. Tonight we have Michael Barber and Vicki Trice with the Department of Commerce and Insurance in Tennessee. And they're going to be talking to us a little bit about the process and giving us lots of solid information that we all need to know in the wake of a disaster. So, with that said, I just want to let y'all know I'll be monitoring the chat for any questions, and I will bring those up with our panelists at the end of their presentation. So feel free to drop those in the chat. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to Vicki and Michael. Thank you so much, guys, for being here with us tonight.
Thank you as well, Savannah. My name is Vicki Trice, and I am the Director of the Consumer Insurance Services area with the Department of Commerce and Insurance. And Michael, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Michael Barber. I'm the manager over the Consumer Insurance Services Investigations Department. Vicki is my director.
So, what I'd like to do initially is just to talk a little bit about the Department of Commerce and Insurance, just to give a little background on what we do actually. So, there are actually 6 sections within the insurance division. Um, our policy analysis section regulates all policies and rate filings for the state of Tennessee. So, no policy of insurance can be sold in Tennessee unless it's approved by our policy analysis section. No company can increase their rates unless they're approved by our policy analysis section. So, we get a lot of calls when those rates start going up, but they have to be approved in advance before the company can incorporate those rate increases. We have a financial section, and this section primarily looks at the company. So they look at all the books, all the records, everything that the company's doing. Are they paying their claims? Are they not paying their claims? They just kind of do financial reviews daily. We have about 1,900 companies that are licensed here in the state of Tennessee. And so they stay busy just to make sure that the companies are solvent so that they can pay the claims when claims need to be paid. We also have our agent licensing section, and this section primarily licenses all the agents, producers, public adjusters, those type of people. Right now, we have a little bit over 260,000 agents that are licensed to do business here in the state of Tennessee. We also have our company market conduct section. And for every company that's actually domiciled here in the state of Tennessee, the company section does actual market conduct exams every 5 years on every domiciled company. And that exam is very thorough. They actually go on site to the company. They look through all of their books, everything, all of their administrative processes. They look through everything just to make sure that the company is doing what they're supposed to do. My section primarily regulates the companies by handling consumer complaints, and we handle complaints for the entire state of Tennessee. I've got a team of life and health and property and casualty investigators. They all report to Michael, and we regulate all lines of insurance. So, anytime that anyone has any type of problem with the company or an agent, they can contact my office. We'll get it assigned to one of the investigators, and we'll go to work to try to mediate that complaint for the consumer. Last year, we brought in $10.2 million of restitution to Tennessee residents. So we're very thorough in our work. We do a very good job. I'm very proud of my team. Michael leads them extremely well. So that's kind of what we do in a nutshell. We make sure that the companies are abiding by the state insurance laws and also by the policies that they've written and have enforced here within the state of Tennessee. One of the big things that we do with my property and casualty investigators, we help with disaster assistance throughout the state. So if there's a tornado or if there's flooding or wildfires, we will go out and set up claim centers in those impacted areas and try to provide on-site assistance to the residents that have been impacted by that weather event. So Michael and I spent about a week and a half down in the Waverly area. We were in Waverly and Dixon and Nunley, just kind of going around to the different centers that they had set up, just trying to assist people that had insurance issues, things that were going on. The really bad thing about flooding is, of course, it's not under state jurisdiction. Flood insurance is under FEMA, the National Flood Insurance Program. So that's not ran locally by the State Department. So a lot of the people that were affected in the Waverly flood, um, some of those people have flood policies. A lot of those people actually were in places where they were actually renting that unit or living in subsidized housing and apartments and things of that type. And so they were unable actually to get any insurance related assistance. FEMA was there to help with assistance. The Small Business Association folks were there as well, helping to give out money. So, and they're still there. FEMA, they're still. I think they set up some trailers because I think one of the problems that they're dealing with right now is long-term housing for a lot of those residents down there. That was a very rural area, and so there's really not a lot of hotels and motels and just other places that those people can live long term until they can get those homes back up and operating again. So they're still kind of dealing with issues of that type. We got a couple of complaints that came in concerning the flooding, but for the most part, like I said, flooding is under the National Flood Insurance Program. So it's not like your homeowner policy is not going to pay anything out on a flood. Renters policies typically won't pay anything out. Most of those policies are for contents only, and if the contents were destroyed because of the flood, then they're probably not going to pay out any money. The only area that we were able to really provide a lot of assistance was with some of the vehicles that flooded. Uh, those are just under your normal car insurance policy. So we were able to assist with that with the flooding. But we stayed a couple of weeks in Gatlinburg when those wildfires hit up there, and one of my takeaways from Gatlinburg, I think that's very important for people to always understand. I always tell people to always, policy language is, it's long and it's just hard to read through all of that, but it's a really good idea to always look at the exclusion page. If you look at nothing else in the policy, look to see what's not covered so that you can be aware, before something happens, and then you're stuck in thinking that you had coverage when you didn't really have it. A lot of the people there were actually underinsured because they hadn't looked at their homeowner policies on those cabins in years. Some of them had added things on, had bought different things in the home, but they hadn't upgraded their policies any. So a lot of them were unable to rebuild to the extent that they had before those wildfires came in. So we kind of run into situations like that. That happens some with some of the tornadoes as well. I think actually we still have one or two tornado complaints that we're still trying to work through now, and that's been almost 2 years ago. So some of the complaints, usually our complaints can get done within between 30 to 45 days, but sometimes depending on the scope of the issue and kind of what's going on with it, it may take us a little bit longer to get through, and try to bring that complaint to a agreeable resolution for both the policyholder and the company. So I'm talking a lot. Michael, anything you want to add?
I would definitely emphasize what you said about know the policy. People need to understand what they're signing is a legal contract. It is a legal contract with that insurance company, and a lot of it is fine print, but definitely know what the policy covers, and just as important, know what it does not cover.
Mhm.
Okay. Because a lot of the insurance contracts will say sudden and accidental. That's what insurance pays for. So, in the case of like a homeowner's claim, if you have a dishwasher that's been leaking for weeks or months or whatever, and you didn't know it, it may not be covered because that's not sudden and accidental. Like if a pipe just burst in your home, that'd be sudden and accidental. That'd be covered. But if it's just a little hose somewhere leaking behind a refrigerator, behind a dishwasher, something like that, that may not be considered sudden and accidental and it could be excluded. So definitely know what the policy says, read over it. If you don't understand parts of it, ask the agent, call the insurance company, call us.
Mhm.
We can definitely go over it with you. We'll let you know what the policies are about. Homeowners policies are very similar, but they're not exactly the same. It can vary from company to company, the wording in it. So while the companies may have similar objectives of what they would cover, the wording in it could be different. So what one company may cover, another company may exclude. So definitely read those policies and know what they are, know what they say before you sign that dotted line.
That's
So we
really, really great advice. Thank you so
Yeah,
much
it
for that.
is. It is. And we like I said, we handle all lines of insurance, and we see all different types of things that come in. We have specific insurance laws that the companies know that they have to abide by, as far as paying claims, there are time limits on when they are supposed to pay a claim out. A lot of times we get complaints from people because their policy has been non-renewed. Have to deal with that sometimes as well. And we have to explain to people that insurance is a risk based product. So if that risk changes, the company has the right to decide whether they want to continue having business with you or not. So they can in fact non-renew the policy as long as they provide sufficient notice at least 30 days prior to the termination of the policy. They're allowed to do that. And that's one of the things that some people just don't understand. If you go out and you have a really bad driving record, you've had 3 or 4 accidents or whatever, that's going to kind of put you in in a higher risk category. And so that company may or may not decide to renew that policy, when it's time for the policy to be renewed. So that's something that we always remind people to think about. As far as disasters are concerned, one of the big takeaways is that we always tell people to try to keep a home inventory of everything that you have in your home. The worst thing that can happen is that a flood comes or a tornado comes and everything is wiped away. And then you're sitting there trying to remember what you had in each room of your house. So we have an app. It's through the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners. Um, there's an app there where you can go in and just go through each room of your house and list everything that you have in your home and keep it stored in the cloud. And that way, if something were to happen, you would already have that information for the company. There's sometimes a lot of bickering back and forth between the policyholder and the company because everything's gone. You don't have receipts, you don't have anything there, and the companies, sometimes they're wanting proof of what you had. You say you had 3 laptops. Can you show me something that shows that, it's that type of stuff that we have to try to mediate a lot of times. So that's one of the really big takeaways that we always try to encourage people. Flood policies, you have to wait 30 days before that policy is going to be effective. So for people, a lot of people here in Tennessee don't realize the fact that you don't have to be in an actual flood zone to need a flood policy. I think that, I know Waverly has had flooding in the past and they do have a river there. But there are a lot of areas here within our state that just flood just because of the enormous amount of rain that comes in. And so people need to know and be aware, of how flood policies work, whether they would need one or not. It's just something that you never really know whether you're going to need it or not, but it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So you have to kind of think about those types of things when you're thinking about insurance, making purchases for insurance and things of that type.
Vicky, Latasha would like to know what the name of the app is, if you know.
Um, I don't know. I know there's a link to it actually on our website as well. It's my NAIC. I can't remember, but I'll get that information back to Savannah, and we can try to get it out to everyone. I actually didn't print that off anywhere, so I apologize for that. Another thing that we have at the department is that when disasters happen, a lot of times we have contractors that and public adjusters and people like that will come in from other states. So they have a non-resident license to do business here in the state of Tennessee. And so we have to remind people to always be careful when you're dealing with people that you don't really know, especially contractors. They will come up, they will give you a business card, and they will say, hey, I can fix your roof for $1,500. And it's always good to know who you're doing business with. So on our website, which is tn.gov/commerce/insurance, we have an app out there where you can go in to verify whether a person's licensed or not. And you can look up contractors, you can look up insurance agents, you can look up public adjusters. It's just always good to make sure that who you're dealing with is actually insured and bonded to do that type of work. And never ever give a contractor all of the money up front for a job. Most of the insurance companies will give you that money in three separate payments. They'll give you enough money for the contractor to go out and buy the materials to start the work. Then, about halfway through the project, they'll give you another check for that work. And then, once the job is finished, they'll give you the remaining money to pay the contractor. One of the things that happened in Gatlinburg, we had a lady up there and had some contractors had come in, and she gave them the entire insurance check for $263,000. And they took her check and they left, and she never saw them again. And she was never able to actually, I actually don't know what happened with that, but I know that she didn't get her money back. I know that, the last that I had heard about it, she was never able to rebuild her home or anything because they had actually taken her money and ran. And so those types of things do happen. People know that that's a very vulnerable time for people. And so there are people that will come in with scams. They'll come in and tell you that they're with FEMA. And so it's always a great idea to ask for ID, get online, verify that they are actually licensed to be doing the type of work that they're stating that they can do for you. Just make sure that you're dealing with, licensed individuals when you start the claims process, start rebuilding on your home or whatever.
That can also go as well for health insurance and life insurance. We have situations where not so nice people will prey on more senior citizens. They'll call them up and say, "Hey, I can get you health insurance a whole lot cheaper than what you have now, or life insurance, anything like that." And then they get scammed and taken
Mhm.
for a lot of money. So if you have elderly grandparents, parents, or you yourself are reaching that age, definitely, if you get that kind of call us and let us check it out for you. Before you sign anything with anyone you don't know about health insurance, life insurance, anything like that, let us check into it for you and find out if it's legit or not. Okay.
Yep. And that's great advice, Michael. That's one of the things that I failed to mention. But in addition to handling complaints, we do a lot of education. Some years we handle close to 50,000 telephone calls a year. And a lot of times people will call the office and they just have a general question about an insurance product or whatever. And my team is able to answer those questions. A lot of times they may call wanting to file a complaint. And by the time we talk to them, we can get them to understand why the company did whatever they did or whatever happened, and so they end up not having to file that complaint. But we do a lot of education and outreach at TDCI. So,
So I am so impressed by what you shared with us about your mediation process, and I wasn't aware that that was a resource that existed for Tennesseans. Very excited to hear that y'all are out there.
yes, yeah.
Um, so one of my questions is, if I have a problem and I call y'all what does that mediation process look like for
Okay.
me?
Sure. So a lot of people don't know we're there. And what we always try to do when we go out, I work closely with our education and outreach coordinator. We are out across the state all the time. I've got several events set up for next week. And what we're trying to do is just get the word out there so that people know that we are there. Before you go and get an attorney or go to small claims court and start spending out additional money, contact us because our services are free for all the residents of Tennessee. As long as that policy was written here within the state of Tennessee, we can probably help you with it. So the complaint process is actually very easy to do. I have an online complaint form that's on our website at tn.gov/commerce/insurance, and then just look for file a complaint. And basically, you just click on the link. It opens up the complaint form. You just fill out the form. It's going to ask for information, name, address, insurance carrier, and then just a brief description of what the problem is. And then it also asks what type of resolution are you looking for? You want the claim paid probably, or if they're delaying or whatever, you're just trying to get to be made whole again. So once those complaints come in, once it comes in with the online form, our system will send a tracking number back out to the complainant to let them know that we received the complaint, and it gives them their tracking number. And within 48 hours of receipt of that complaint, it gets assigned to one of my investigators, depending on the line of insurance. Like I said, we're broken down between life and health and property and casualty. And so we assign it to an investigator, and they will contact the complainant within 48 hours. They'll send that initial letter out that explains our mediation process and, kind of gives them some timelines as to when they can expect things to be done. And then we also start the process with the company. So basically, we mediate. So we have to hear both sides of the story. So when you fill the complaint out, we've got your side of the story. And now we're going to go to the company and ask them, hey, why did you do this? Or. So we will send the copy of the complaint to the company. We have specific contacts at every company that's licensed to do business here in Tennessee, and we send our complaints to that contact person at whatever company that we're dealing with. And we have a law in place here in Tennessee that states that the company has to respond to any complaint from the commissioner's office within 30 days of receipt of that complaint. And so the companies are really good about responding to us. We In our letter, we actually ask for the response within 2 weeks of receipt, and in most cases they're able to do that. If they don't respond within that 30-day time period, it's set up to where we can fine that company $100 per day for every day over the 30 days that they did not respond. So usually like I said, they're pretty good about responding to us. They'll send the response back. Everything is done electronically via email, unless for some reason the consumer doesn't have access to a computer. We still do paper complaints as well. And so the company's going to come back and explain to us why they handled the claim the way that they handled it. So we'll read through the response, we'll look at the policy, we'll review whatever documentation we need to make sure that the company is acting in accordance to the provisions of the policy and acting in accordance with the Tennessee insurance laws. And then we'll take that response and send it to the complainant and explain to them, that we got the response from the company. And so at that point, the complainant can say, that's not true. That's not how things happened. I want to provide a rebuttal. They can do that. So within 10 days, they can send that rebuttal back to the office. They can say, they're saying this and that's not what happened, and, whatever. And we'll take that, go back to the company again, ask them to answer those particular questions. And it's just kind of a back and forth type of process until we can bring it to hopefully an agreeable resolution. In some situations, it, like Michael was talking about with the sudden leaks and things like that, sometimes we're not able to get the claims overturned. But like I said, we returned over $10 million in restitution in 2020. So there are a lot of claims that we are able to assist with, and we're able to get those claims paid. So, like I said, the process is really simple. The only thing that we require is that the complaint has to be in writing. So we have to have something in writing that gives us permission to go to the company on behalf of the policyholder.
That is absolutely incredible. And I am so glad to be a part of making sure folks know y'all are out there, because that is absolutely incredible to
Yes.
have y'all as a resource. We do have one question from Amel Fliss. It looks like she's had some trouble um, between she's got a renter in a house, and whose insurance should pay at that point. Should the renter have to have insurance, or should her insurer have to pay if there's some sort of I'm assuming a flood problem in this case.
So I'm not really sure about the details of that. So
Hmm.
h- her property, she would have to decide whether she would require the person to have to have insurance, renter's insurance. That's typically left up to the person that owns the building. I know with most of them, they do require a renter's policy. Renter's policies basically, like I said, pay only for content coverage because that person that's renting doesn't own the structure of the building. So there's no coverage for anything like that under a renter's policy. It's primarily just the content coverage. And like I stated, if a flood happens, renters policies typically will not pay out for flood unless there's a rider or something on the policy that includes flood. Michael may can speak better to that than I can.
I think they said they rented a house and the homeowner who owned the house did not have insurance. If I'm reading it right, they had renter's insurance, and
You are. I misread that.
oh, that's okay. And one of them was hurt during the flood. Who pays the bills? Okay.
Oh,
Um, in this case, if the homeowner did not have insurance, there's a lot of details in that we would
yeah.
need to
Have to
know.
look at.
Yeah, yeah, like how they were hurt. We'd have to get down into the details of that. Ultimately, this could end up in a legal type situation.
Right.
However, especially with the homeowner themselves not having insurance.
And I'm wondering if the so was this related to the flood? Was this situation related to the flood or
It says one of us was hurt during the flood, so I'm assuming those
okay?
are the Waverly floods, but we're not certain.
Okay. Yeah, so they probably didn't have a flood policy on the home. I would assume they probably had a homeowner policy on there. And I don't know if a homeowner policy would actually pay for someone being hurt if the accident, whatever happened, was caused by a flood. Michael, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that one's going to be tricky. We would have to see the details involved in it to
Okay.
know more, to get a better understanding of it.
Yeah.
But at any rate, it sounds like y'all are a great resource for her, and at
Oh
least
yes.
understanding more about what.
Yes, most definitely. We can certainly look into it and see what we can find out and try to assist with whatever we can with that. So yeah.
And in the situation where we can't necessarily help or bring it to the resolution you would like, we can offer options at that
Hmm.
point. This is where we think you should take it, what level you should take it to from
Yep.
here. So we'll definitely point everyone in the right direction, even when we can't necessarily help.
Right.
That is
Right.
awesome. That is really wonderful. And something that I heard you say earlier too, is that a lot of the flood insurance is through the federal government, so y'all don't touch for floods.
Right.
Correct me if I'm
Right.
wrong.
Yeah, that's correct.
Is there something at the federal level like you that folks should call, that would help folks sort through, in this way? Because this is just such a wonderful resource, and I would love it if something existed that folks could
So,
sort through.
um, for flood policies, they are sold through local companies here. And so, like whoever you have your homeowner policy with, you could probably get a flood policy through that same agent for your home. And that
Okay,
agent actually would be the best resource to help you in making the decisions about what type of flood policy you need, like how much it would be worth and those types of things. FEMA, they don't have like a situation set up kind of like this. Every state has a Department of Insurance. Let me say that first of all. So all 50 states have departments of insurance, and so insurance is regulated at the state level. This is a federal program. FEMA and the National Flood Insurance Program is all federal, but those policies are sold through local insurance companies here within the state. And like I said, you can go through your local agent to purchase a flood policy. They can give you all the specifics for that policy, and let if your home is in a flood zone, then you're going to probably have to have a flood policy on it because most mortgage companies are going to require it. But for those folks that are outside flood zones but still feel like they might want to get a flood policy, I would point them in the direction of their local agent in order to try to get that. FEMA's really great about things. They come in. Basically, what happens when like a flooding like that happens, that we have to wait on a declaration to come through, which that did happen. And so once that declaration has been made through Governor Lee, FEMA at that point they're able to come in and provide assistance to the people that were affected by the incident. So sometimes that it requires that declaration before FEMA will come in and start setting up and start doing things. But they were there on the scene in Waverly really fast. They provided a lot of assistance to a lot of folks there, and that it's very comforting for us when we're there because we know that our hands are kind of tied when it comes to a lot of those issues. But they're able to kind of work through. They have people set up. They had people set up at all the claim centers that were around, and people were coming in to talk to them to get assistance, financial assistance. During that process. So they're really great about doing that, and they're really good about as far as teaching and sending out information. I'm a member of TEMA, the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency here within the state of Tennessee. And so TEMA works hand in hand with FEMA as well. And so TEMA was there, FEMA was there. We had so many volunteer organizations that showed up that were there, and so much money, they had so many donations coming in that they ran out of space to put things. So they started asking people to just send monetary donations in because a lot of people were still having to stay in hotels and things and still needed help paying for rooms and just the basic everyday necessities that were needed. But every situation's a little bit different when it comes. It just depends on what type of incident it is. But FEMA came in really quick when the tornadoes hit as well. They were there. They actually came out to some of the claim centers and set up tables and things and helped. So once that declaration is done, then they're in here and they're here to help, and that's really great. They're
Let me
really
throw
great
out a
agency.
let me throw out a number for Latasha to contact the Department of Insurance. The number is 615-741-2218. I'll say that one more time, 615-741-2218. Call now. Operators are standing by.
Michael, now who's working this late at night? Oh,
Well, awesome. I just have one last question, and I don't see any other questions in the chat, but I heard you mention that some folks in Gatlinburg after the fires ran into some trouble because they were underinsured
right.
and had not updated their policy. Is
hmm
there a good rule of thumb, or what should I keep in mind when thinking about when to update my policy? Um,
So I always say, you know, um, I think it is something that probably needs to be looked at on a yearly basis. But that if you make any additions to your home, if you add on a room, if you add on a driveway, if you add on a patio, or if you buy, some large, expensive items or whatever, anything that's adding any value to your home or to your property, then you probably need to just kind of look through your policy or set up an appointment with your agent and just kind of go through things and say, I've done this and this and this, I've made these additions or whatever, and they can work with you to make sure that you have sufficient coverage for your home. What happens in situations when people are underinsured? The insurance company is going to pay out up to the policy limits that they're required to pay, and then some of those folks had to go and get additional loans in order to rebuild back to the standards that they had before those wildfires came in. And when you're 50 or 60 years old and having to start over like that, it's really hard. We saw some of that with some of the folks down in Waverly. They were, older folks, and that was some of the stories they were sharing, as that they never expected that they would have to be starting over at this, point in their lives. And so any type of event like that, there's always, it's just very tragic, because it's so unexpected. I looked at videos of that water in Waverly, and I was just so amazed at how quickly, that water came in there within 3 minutes, and everything was just, just flooded, just completely gone. And so things happen so fast sometimes. But yeah, that's what I would suggest as far as reviewing your policies. And like I tell people, sometimes it's good just on a yearly basis just to kind of do a checkup on everything. We tell people, even with life insurance policies, to make sure that your beneficiary information is up to date. We have a lot of people that their mother or father dies, and they don't know whether they had a policy or not. We have a lost policyholder service where it's through the NAIC, the National Association of Insurance Commissioners, as well, but the link to it is on my website. And we can go in and look for lost policies if someone has died and you don't know whether they have had a life insurance policy or not. And so that service will send out a message to all the life writers all across the United States, and they'll search for policies based on the person's name, social security number. We have to have a death certificate to do that. But that's another good program that we have that we utilize a lot, because there are a lot of people that have life insurance policy. Sometimes companies change, they purchase certain blocks of business from other companies. So you may have started out with American General and you may end up with Transamerica. Those types of things happen as well. So the family is left with not really knowing if there's a policy, if it's still in force, how much it is, who's the beneficiary. So that's another thing that we can assist with, is trying to help people to find lost life insurance policies, in addition to a lot of the PNC stuff that we do. So
Y'all do it all.
we
I
do,
mean,
we
really.
do.
That's
If I could
amazing.
add one thing on the what to let your agent know about your home. If you get a new roof, if you
Yes,
have a new roof put on your home, definitely let the insurance company know that.
yes,
Because the roof is that's one of our biggest complaints is
yep,
replacing roofs, that kind of thing.
yep.
So anytime you replace it, let the insurance company know, because if they have to do anything to your roof, they will depreciate it by how old your roof is.
Mhm,
So the newer roof you have, the better.
mhm,
With homeowners policies, there's actually two kinds that people should know about. There's an actual cash value policy, and there's a replacement cost value policy, ACV and RCV. That's what they're called. Now, the actual cash value pays for what your property is worth today, but they're going to depreciate how old the property is. Okay, so you may not be able to get enough to cover what it takes to rebuild your home. All right. Whereas the replacement cost value, it's going to value your home for what it's worth today, and all you pay is your deductible.
mhm.
Okay. So keep that in mind in homeowners policies when you're looking at it. Of course, there is a price difference, but something to really think about and take into consideration when you're looking into homeowners insurance.
Really good information. The both of you. This is just an amazing resource. And it sounds like y'all are really a force for Tennesseans out there. So I really appreciate the both of you and the work that you do. Um, unless y'all have other hot tips that we need to make sure and hear, I'd like to go ahead and wrap up. But Vicky, it looks like there is some other things we need to know.
Well, I was just going to talk a little bit about the complaint data. I know that a lot of
Perfect.
times, sometimes people will call us and they will ask, hey, is this a good company, or how is this company rated? And of course, we can't give out that type of information. Unfortunately, we as the regulator can't say, well, yeah, I'd probably, go with Allstate before I'd pick Nation. We can't do that. So, but a lot of times, what we of course we have a service that's called AM Best, and AM Best rates all the insurance companies. So anytime that you want to know the rating of a company, you can go to the AM Best website and put the company's name in, and they will give you the rating for the company. However, one of the resources that is a good tool to think about as well is the actual complaint data. Now, my complaint data is confidential. However, we can pull aggregate totals of complaint data, and sometimes it's just good to know, how many complaints have you all received on this company versus how many you've received on that company. We know that the market share of the company makes a difference in that. If it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, that's the largest health carrier here in the state of Tennessee. They have more policies in force. They're going to probably have more complaints than Cigna. But it's still a good thing to look at the actual complaint data just to kind of see the types of complaints that are being filed. Are they not paying their claims? Are they, delaying everything? Are they asking for prior authorizations on every single procedure? It's just those types of things that would benefit a consumer when you're looking at the different insurance companies and trying to decide which one would be the best fit for you. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that there's a link on our website as well where you can go and look at actual complaint data on the companies. It actually takes you to the NAIC site, but it's on my website, and you can utilize that as well to find that information out if that would be helpful.
And I'd like to throw in about auto insurance. Okay. We get a lot of people saying that their auto insurance, the rates have gone up, so on and so forth. And one of the things I tell people is auto insurance companies are like grocery stores now. If you don't like the price of one, go to another one. There's a bunch of them out there.
There are.
Okay. And auto policies are all basically the same. And on the coattails of that, we have a lot of people who might call up and say, well, I had full coverage. Okay. Well, there is no such animal as full coverage. Okay. What you can have on an auto policy is liability, which is what the state requires. And it's only, what is it, Vicky? 25K? I've got
I
confused
think
now.
so.
I believe it's 25,000.
Yeah.
Okay. If you hit a Jaguar, which is what one of my kids would do, that 25,000 is gone, right? And then you're left with what's left over, okay? Because they will come to you once your insurance policy doesn't cover the whole thing. Okay, but you have liability, then you have collision coverage. Collision coverage covers your vehicle in case of an accident. Most lien holders want you to have that. They're not going to let you ride out unless you've got something to cover their interest, because if you're still paying on the car, it's not exactly yours yet, right? And then you've got comprehensive coverage. Comprehensive is the deer that jumps out in front of you, a fire, a tree falls on it, that kind of thing. Then you've got uninsured motorist coverage. Uninsured motorist in Tennessee, you can decline that coverage. I would suggest do not decline that coverage, because that covers you in case the other person that hits you doesn't have insurance.
Mm-hmm.
It's not your fault. And if you don't have insurance, if you don't have that uninsured motorist insurance, and all of a sudden you've got medical bills, you know, you're kind of out of luck unless you've got the other insurance to cover it. But if you can, make sure you get that uninsured motorist coverage, because that will cover you in case the other person doesn't. And then you've got the various other things, roadside assistance, all that kind of stuff. But all of that is what makes up an auto insurance policy. So it's not just, I have full coverage. There's actually quite a few elements involved in that. So.
And I appreciate you kind of giving us the tools and language to talk about that when we go to our auto insurers,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of break it up into bite-sized chunks. That's what makes it
Yes. Yes.
less scary. um, so, well, wonderful, y'all. I don't see any other questions, but I will say that Legal Aid Society and Daria Glover have done a great job of dropping information into the chat as we've been talking. And
Great.
so I think you can find most of the links that we discussed today in the chat.
Oh, wonderful.
Um, and you can go ahead and head on over wherever you need to. So with that, thank you guys so much. This is an amazing resource. Thank you for giving us your time tonight, and I I learned a lot. I
Well,
learned a lot.
good.
Thank y'all so
Good.
much.
Excellent.
Yes.
Spread the word.
You got
Yes.
it. Absolutely. I
Yes.
will, believe me. So
Okay.
thank
Well,
y'all so much for
okay.
being here.
All
Well, thank you
righty.
for having us.
Absolutely. We'll see you.
Okay.
Good night,
All
everybody.
right.